In the name of the Father, and of the Son, and of the Holy Spirit.
Amen.
St. John tells us that the first miracle that Jesus performed was the changing of water into wine at the wedding in Cana in Galilee. And in today's Gospel, we hear of the final miracle that Jesus worked according to St. John, the raising of Lazarus from the dead, worked while he himself was on his way to his own death and his glorious resurrection. Bethany was rather like a bed and breakfast centre just outside Jerusalem. Pilgrims on their way to the great festivals of the Passover and Pentecost would be accommodated by the villagers in their homes. And so there were, at the times of festival, always a large crowd in Bethany. And it was this crowd that witnessed this final miracle of Jesus. Of course, St. John never speaks about miracles. He never uses the word. John speaks about signs. The mighty acts of Jesus are signs, St. John tells us, that point beyond themselves. So the water into wine at Cana points to the new wine of the gospel that God has kept until now. The new wine of the good news of salvation, of healing and hope that Jesus brought by his life, by his death, and by his resurrection. And the raising of Lazarus, happening just before the crucifixion, points to that great event by which God will bring an end to sin and death and bring all people into newness of life. As one of the Eucharistic prefaces puts it, that there where death arose, life might rise again. It is in the very place of death that God brings new life, in the grave. As we heard in the first reading from the prophet Ezekiel, God means to open the graves of his people and raise them to life. Of course, the prophet Ezekiel had that wonderful vision of the valley of dry bones, where obviously a great battle had taken place, and the bones of the fallen were all that was left. And the great question is asked, Son of man, can these bones live? And Ezekiel replies, Lord, you know. And then that great event occurs. Flesh and muscle and sinew form on the bones, and they rise, a great army. A prophecy of what Jesus, the Son of Man, was to do by his own death and resurrection, the great events that we'll be celebrating in a few days' time. He will raise the whole human race to newness of life. There, where death took place, life rises again. Death is something we all dread and fear. As one preacher has put it, we think that all the beautiful things in our lives will come to an end. For example, we will be separated from our loved ones. They will forget us completely after death. Plan, ambition, dreams will not be fulfilled. We are afraid because we don't know what will happen to us in the other life. No one who went there came back to tell us the image of heaven and hell. Nobody would like to accept that we would die. We want to live forever. But then he adds, yes, we can live forever, but not in this world, but beyond this world. And it is into that fear and hope that Jesus addresses those great words that so often we use at funerals. I am the resurrection and the life. Whoever lives and believes in me, though he die, yet shall he live. And then he looks straight at Martha and he says, do you believe this? And brothers and sisters, on this 5th Sunday of Lent, as we stand on the very threshold of Holy Week and Easter, Jesus addresses those same words to each one of us. Do you believe this? Do you believe that I am the resurrection and the life? Because if you do not need to fear death. As I look at you now, you can look death in the face and not be afraid. Because you know that there where death arose, life will rise again. In the name of the Father, and of the Son, and of the Holy Spirit.
Amen.